If you're part of the Yellow's Marble Runs community, specifically a member of the Marble based Discord server, you probably know what a custom comp is. If you don't, it's basically when someone looks at the Marble League and says, hey, I want to do that. So they buy some marbles, buy some marble racing tracks, and they make their own Marble League style tournament. In my opinion, this is one of the best corners of the marble racing community, but with so many different custom comps out there, how are you able to keep up with what teams are good and bad in the many comps out there? Well, thankfully, I'm here to help, at least with one comp, the Valvik Marble League. This comp isn't a very typical one, as it is part of the group of custom comps that is made in AlgoDo, a digital physics software that is commonly used for marble racing. But Valley, the creator of the VKL, as well as many others, have been able to push AlgoDo to its limits by making some really cool and creative events. But we're not here to talk about that. Let's instead talk about the 28, soon to be 32, teams that competed in Season 3 and detail who was the worst and who was the best. First, let's talk about the teams who didn't qualify in the minor league. This is the competition for the teams who didn't make it past the qualifiers, but there's still a lot to talk about here, so let's get to it. Oh, and by the way, another thing that I should know is that I'm sick while recording this, so my voice will sound bad. I will voice crack a lot. Just bear with me here, okay? I think it's ideal that we start off hot with a team that has literally nothing to talk about. Team White. This is a team that has always been boring and has never stood out to me. They never have done a single interesting thing, and the theme being white doesn't help. This is the most bland, boring, and basic a marble sports team can get. Like, literally, what is there to talk about here? I could explain to you what they did this season, but I think describing to you what the tree in my front yard did this year is more interesting. Yes, this team is more boring to talk about than talking about a tree. Like, genuinely, who even cares for this team? You have your blue enjoyers, orange enjoyers, green enjoyers, and yellow enjoyers, but whoever roots for the purely white teams, especially when their theming is basically the color white, I don't know who does. The fact that I managed to pad out this entire team's segment without actually describing any details about what they did this season says a lot. Anyways, why am I still talking about this team? Moving on. So, former champions, huh? They went from a dominant season 1 to a very mediocre to season 2, and now here. I mean, I guess the inconsistencies and complete RNG of Algodo shouldn't make this a surprise, but go say that to the Carbons or Sky Scouts and that stops being a valid excuse. Honestly, despite the uniqueness of this team, I don't really care for them, so I wouldn't complain if they slipped into mediocrity for the rest of their career. But that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be strange from a former champion. Count your lucky stars that the relegation system kicks out the bottom three instead of four, as well as the fact that the expansion teams mean that there is no relegation, because this means that you get to go to another qualifiers. However, don't think that means you can waltz your way back to your old form, as you have to earn it. Good luck. And now, after talking about two veterans, we have our first rookie team of the season. Considering your amazing performance in the new team friendly, we all expected you to qualify. But unfortunately, you really just had to lose out by a single point. However, you quickly showed that you deserved a spot over the Golfbirds by getting 3 medals to have the lead after Event 6. However, something that I should note is that the minor league was very close this season, so much that 11 out of 12 of the teams could still win going into the finale. It was so close, in fact, that it only took one last place finish in the last two events to make them completely fall off the podium. But to be fair, the entire overall top three in the minor league got on the podium in the final event again, so this was very close. So them getting only 6 points in the final event just wasn't enough for them to get on the podium. However, this team still did very well, and I fully expect them to qualify next season. However, as teams like the Cobalts and Moneymakers have shown, doing good in the B League doesn't always equate to qualification. However, being the only flower team across marble sports that I like, I really hope that they can make it. It's honestly really hard to come up with different things about these B League teams because, as I said, everyone was really close. This meant that most teams were also really similar performance wise, so if I wanted to, I could just lump like 6 different teams together. But I won't because content. To summarize these few teams, most of them were really inconsistent, and all were big championship contenders at some point. Coastline Crescents were part of that group, but aside from a bronze and a fourth place finish, this team was very mediocre. They were never in the basement as a Hammerheads mostly fulfilled that role, but overall the Crescents didn't do much. And I don't really like this team, so I'm pretty thankful for that. But we got a bunch of similarly performing teams to cover, so let's try and quickly cover them. Wait, This team used to be good. Yeah, apparently the Poison Darts got fourth in season one, but I'm not buying it. They're looking a bit suspicious to me. I don't know why, but this guy is giving me a funny look, making me think this isn't the same Poison Darts. Either way, after a pretty rough 14th in season 2, they got last in their qualifier group somehow, despite the fact that they got two bronzes, and they went to the minor league. They did pretty terribly the whole time, except for them jumping into the mid pack for a single event due to winning the rally course, but then fell back down to 11th by the end. This team has not been treading well as of late. I feel like this team could go any of two ways in the future. Either they become the new Hammerheads, or they just stay mediocre, occasionally qualifying but never actually being a championship threat. I'm a big fan of this team, so I hope for and expect the latter. But we'll have to see how things go for them in the future. Now it's time to talk about our minor league winners, the Clockworks. Normally I would save the winner for last, but I feel like this team was kind of underwhelming and was probably the expected champion. They had a mediocre first two events, but from event 3 onwards, they were up on or near the podium for the entire rest of the season, which is something that most other teams here can't say. Due to the fact that the minor league was super close this time around, as well as the fact that some of the teams around you in the standings choked, you were able to win the minor league by the end. Enjoy your extra qualifier points. I'm expecting huge things from you next season, so don't throw away this good reputation you could gain. Or become the Cobalts 2.0. It's your choice. However, I think I know which route you prefer going down. I feel like this team is nearly the textbook definition of what I described about teams being inconsistent. They started in first, went all around the top 8, and ended in fifth. That's how you describe their season. Like, no, seriously. Throughout this season, they kind of just rode the lazy river at their local water park and let the current take them wherever it wanted to. And somehow, by doing this, they ended the race in fifth overall. So, good for them, I guess. I mean, despite getting only a single medal, they were actually pretty solid, getting multiple solid finishes. However, a couple of weak finishes as well as a lack of medals caused them to only get fifth overall. However, they still had a good season. You were oh so close to qualifying this season, so hopefully you can get it done this time. And if you do make it, I expect very good things from you. Not to mention that you have been growing on me with how much I like you, so I think it would be pretty cool if you did well next season. Good luck. Wow. Just wow. This is sad. This team is depressingly trash. They went from two completely awful seasons in the main league to finally failing to qualify and having an even worse season in the minor league somehow. This team is so pathetic. I mentioned Elgato consistency in the cue ball segment, and this team really proves my point. This team will never do anything in their career. I am telling you right now, if you're a Hammerheads fan, jumping ship is way overdue, because this team has hit the iceberg and is already halfway submerged in the ocean. Fitting with how this is a water team. I know that impressive things have happened. Icicle Incredibles went from last in the Season 1 Consolation Cup to getting an overall silver just 2 seasons later. In that same season, Team Lemonade of all teams won. Pinky's also won the Marble League, all of that. But no, this is the one team that I know for a fact will never even get close to doing remotely well in anything. It's insane how lucky you are for even getting a chance at the qualifiers. You should be thankful, but everyone in the world and their pets know that this team is not qualifying. And if they do, it'll be another basement season. If not, expect relegation and retirement if you aren't careful. Now watch that age poorly. Wait, this team exists? That's a shock. Honestly, the colors here make me not like this team at all. So ideally, I don't want to talk about this team, especially with how I forgot they existed. At least I want to forget them. Wait, they got 3 medals in the last 4 events? Okay, cool. I still don't care. My thoughts about this team will always be that I dislike them and I will never actually pay attention to them. Unfortunately, the single bonus point in the qualifiers could mean that you qualify on just your second season. So please, don't actually try to be good, because my goal in life is to think about you as little as possible. Now let's try and fulfill that goal and stop talking about this team, shall we? Why? 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 How did you do that? You had the lead going into the finale. You fell to seventh in the final event. You got 1 point. You can't just do this when you have the lead going into the finale. There are bonus points in the qualifiers on the line. Oh yeah, I should mention I love this team. They're my fourth favorite team in the league. Nimble Vulpines, take notes. But them being a team that I love should explain why I am yelling at them right now. Ignore Ghost Plasma in Sand Marble Rally Season 6 or Icicle Incredibles in JBL Cup Season 3. This is the worst choke of all time. However, Hopefully you've been listening because repeating that this minor league was extremely close is getting tiring. This could be cope, but I have a feeling that this explains why they managed to fall from first to seventh in the span of one event. Also, it's probably important that the overall top three by the end of the minor league got a medal in the marathon, aka the final event. But you really had a great start, getting two medals in a row in the first two events. In fact, you held the lead at a lot of points and you were in the top three for every event until the marathon. I swear, you better qualify next season, or else I have no clue what I will do. Let's stop yelling at this team and go praise a different one. So close. You had a pretty good season despite being in the minor league. You had perfect attendance going into this season, but you were always mediocre, so failing to qualify wasn't necessarily a surprise. But you were still somewhat of a favorite to win the minor league, and the fact that you tied for the win but just missed out, I feel, is good enough. The fact that teams getting a tie for the championship win is extremely rare, and it happened here just proves the thing that I'm not going to say for the fourth time. But overall, I think your alright reputation, added with your great performance here, means good things for the future. I can honestly see you becoming a championship contender next season, but knowing how my predictions tend to go, this likely means you'll get relegated next season. Okay, one more team left. Who is it? Alright. Before I say anything, I should have you know that this team, the Cyber Crew, is my favorite custom comp team of all time. I love the uniforms, I love the theming, I love the name, I love the individual names, and I love the logo. So the fact that this team did completely awful hurts my soul. First, you did terribly in the qualifiers, and then wait. Silver in Event 1. Wow, this team might be good, and they may have even deserved to qualify after all. No, wait, they're actually garbage. They fell to 10th in Event 5 and even last in Event 6. They ended up bouncing back with the silver in Event 7, but they were so trash before that it only raised them a single spot. Thankfully, due to the fact that this was really close, they could actually win going into the finale. Somehow. But they just had to have a bad final event, and only rose one spot to 10th by the end. Normally, I wouldn't go into such great detail, but I really just feel the need to get across to you the point that all of my favorite teams always do terribly. Nor the crazy cat's eyes. Trust me, I've had worse luck before, but this, as well as what I had to go through in the main league, which you will see coming up, will show you just one of many examples of my suffering. And that's it for the minor league. A lot of these teams here were rather unremarkable, considering how close the pack was, but the few that were had a lot to talk about. But now it's time to talk about the teams who competed for a meaningful title in the major league, or the main league, whatever you want to call it. And we open up the main league with a team that somehow almost won the award for best uniform and custom comps. Like yellow and purple are a cool color combo, but you're saying that if I take the Shell Shockers, move the hue slider a bit, they will become the best team ever? According to this team, I guess so. But that's irrelevant. This is a brand new team in Season 3, and safe to say, despite doing pretty mid, that's a solid start for a debut team. They honestly did pretty bad for a majority of the season, but a Golden Team Pursuit, yes, Event 12, allowed them to jump up all the way to ninth. And then they also got silver in football, so overall, with how mediocre they were half the time, they really have some improving to do. Especially considering how they never won an individual event, they have a lot of figuring out to do when it comes to their roster. But that comes down to the team hopefully having a good manager. I expect good things from you next season, not sure why. Hey, welcome back. After surprisingly failing to qualify last season, they absolutely destroyed the minor league and unsurprisingly used their bonus points to their advantage, qualifying for this season. And safe to say they had a solid season back. 7th overall is pretty solid for a team with promise such as this one. 2 golds and consistent top half finishes is a surefire way to get you close to the top of the standings. Unfortunately, they were never really in the championship fight, but that doesn't mean they had a bad season. Not even close to one, in fact. I have lots of hope in this team to potentially do a lot more than they have in the future. They have clearly shown lots of talent in the past, and they're one of those teams where I am really excited to see what they can do. Who knows, maybe they could get a championship win, but to do that, they need to qualify. And considering how the bonus points completely saved them from another minor league this season, they will have to step up their qualifying game if they want a shot at a championship. Why are you here? Who decided that some random team from the JML could come in here and qualify just to do completely awful? Like, who even gave you the right to qualify, let alone be here? Your uniforms are ugly, you as a team are irrelevant, and you were never doing particularly well in the standings. Hell, the only reason you weren't last is due to two bronzes in the last two events, but even that wouldn't have been good enough if it weren't for the Atomics for getting to compete in the final two events. Sure, for most of the season you were consistently in the bottom half, that is. Did I mention that I don't like this team? Yeah, have fun in the B League next season because I think it's safe to assume that's where you'll be headed. Have fun! Just watch this age poorly. You can't make this up. You simply cannot make this up. 3 seasons of the Valvik Marble League, one overall bronze medalist. Going into this season, everyone was hoping that you would get 3 bronzes in 3 seasons for the funny, getting the hat trick of bronzes. However, with how incompetent you were in the first half of the season, this looked like an impossibility. But by somehow getting a quartet of silvers, you jumped up into the lucky third place spot after event 11, right where you belong. And despite no medals, you were still consistent enough to hold that spot and be one of the funniest teams ever in terms of coincidental results. Sports scripters could never. There are a few different ways you could go with this. Either you continue to be the Bronze Scouts, or maybe you feel that you are finally ready to actually contend for a championship. That would be pretty cool. Or maybe you have achieved your life goal as a team and you will now become worse than the Hammerheads. But I know you aren't done here. Now go and fetch that championship. I believe in you. That every season you compete, you always do good enough to be a championship contender, but you never pull it off. You have never auto qualified for a single season, yet you have perfect attendance. Not only that, but every season you have finished just outside the podium. Season 1 you got 6th, Season 2 you got 6th again, and Season 3 you got 5th. This team is the epitome of consistency, yet you have never been able to podium. The fact that you were the only perfect attendee throughout all 3 seasons that hasn't podiumed overall is insane. Now let's hope that you don't absolutely choke qualifiers next season, but considering you, I wouldn't put it past you. Who knows, maybe you can be on for a championship winning season. I feel like it may be overdue at this point. Boy, what can I say about the Golf Birds this season? Let's start with how you were completely incompetent for most of the season. Well, not totally. You could be the Ocean Critters, but this performance was pretty embarrassing for the season 1 runner up. But considering how the champion of that season was pretty bad in the minor league this season, consider yourself lucky that you even made it here in the first place. Now, if I am calling your season embarrassing, how are you in 12th? In fact, you didn't get a single goose egg this season. It's because you decided to be completely mediocre for the entire season up until football when you realized that you were competing and only had 2 events left to make something out of your terrible season, and you got a gold shooting you all the way up to 11th, and then decided you were done for some reason and checked out early by getting 10th in the final event. On one hand, I really want to see you become a championship contender again, but on the other hand, considering this poor performance, I think it's time for your perfect attendance to end. Have fun in the minor league, well, unless you make it back, then please, for my sake, do good next time. Was a great downfall, ballers. If I had a nickel for every time a team absolutely dominated the first few events by getting a ton of medals, but ended up somehow not winning or even not podiuming, I wouldn't even bother to see how many nickels I would have. 3 medals in 5 events sounds pretty nice, right? Hey, how about we go from that to 4 bottom half finishes in a row? This also even includes 2 goose eggs. I mean, you were able to keep your lead, but you lost at the event after. Despite a bronze in event 12 that put you back in the lead for a bit, you really struggled to recover, and a 12th place finish in marathon sealed your fate. However, an auto qualification spot is still good and shows signs of a very successful rebrand. Good luck in season 4. I hope you can repeat your success that you had this season, but, carry it throughout the whole season. Ah, yes, the People's Team. Why are they called the People's Team? Wait, what does People's Team even mean? No, I don't think that's right. I can't find what it's supposed to mean, but that's unrelated. Considering how most people were focused on the Great Championship battle, you were fairly ignored, but you still had a very solid performance. 3 medals, half decent consistency, overall not bad. However, I still wouldn't be surprised to see you miss out next season. It's honestly kind of hard to tell where your franchise will go from here. Either way, I probably won't really care. Tell me you're carried by medals without telling me you're carried by medals. You got 3 medals, yet you finished last. You want to know how you did that? By getting 23 lead cube points. I honestly expected a lot from you after having a half decent season too, and you really disappointed. And the funny thing is, despite being last, you did get 111 points. So it's not terrible, but it's still last place. I hope for a rebound from you, but knowing you, we can probably expect to see you in the B League next season. Oh, and I should also note that you are one of my top 5 favorite teams, and you are one of 3 of that top 5 to get bottom 4 this season. I'm fine. Don't worry. Everything is fine. This is another one of those teams that I just don't like for any particular reason other than I think their uniforms suck. And guess what? It's another team that did really mid with literally nothing important to talk about. You were never in the championship fight and never in the basement. You kind of just did your job of being one of those few teams who did a whole lot of just existing. I mean, you didn't do bad, you got some medals, but in the same season as an amazing title fight and a lot of teams to laugh at for fighting to simply not be last, just getting a few medals and not being awful won't make you very talked about. But still, I guess it's a respectable season. Just don't actually try to be good anytime soon. Oh, hey! Remember how I said that three of my favorite teams were in the bottom four? Well, this is one of them. Honestly, considering how mediocre you were in the Season 2 minor league, I didn't expect you to qualify. But then you blew me away even more by winning the first event. Then getting back to back fourths. You were looking like a championship contender. You better not and you disappointed me. You immediately got last in the fourth event, and then floundered about for the entire rest of the season to land yourself in 14th somehow. A downfall like this is just completely embarrassing. You showed potential, and it pains me to say this as one of this team's biggest fans, but it's for the best that you stay out of the main league. For so long now, there has been a pattern of a ton of my favorites qualifying for the third season for a comp, having them all do terribly, and then none of them make it to the fourth season. Considering how my teams did, I expect pain next season, and that includes you potentially getting relegated. Been denied a championship win yet again. The fact that you are probably the best team here, but you've never won anything, is truly an accomplishment for you. I mean, when one of those teams that did win a thing ended up doing bad in the minor league this season, it really says a lot. You have an overall track record of sixth, second, and another second. You're bound to win a championship any minute now, and I hate it. Just watching you choke another championship brings a smile to my face. You'll probably win the championship next season. It's overdue at this point. It'll be boring, but it's what makes sense. Have a terrible time next season. We went from a team that should be a champion by now to a team that actually is a past champion. Your title defense season was mid. When the most interesting thing you did all season was getting four sixth place finishes throughout the whole season, as well as being one of seven teams to not get a single last place finish, you know you really had an unremarkable season. Similarly to Team Eco, you were kind of just background noise for the entire season. You didn't really try to take your championship title back, but all that matters is that you didn't do completely awful. However, I should note that you were chosen for season 2 of the Marble Invites. Hopefully, you can not only adapt to physical competitions instead of digital, but also in season 4 prove why you were chosen and qualify, which shouldn't be hard to do for you. Good luck. Why are you here? Seriously, you got 7th in the minor league last time. You were lucky enough to escape being one of the 4 different teams from the minor league that season to not immediately retire after the season ended, yet you got second to last. So qualifying in the first place is an absolute miracle for you, but it only took you 2 events to prove that you deserved your spot because you won an event, and then a bronze not long after. From there, you weren't anything special in the season, and thank God you didn't actually try and become a championship contender, because I wouldn't be okay with that timeline whatsoever. I'm pretty sure this will be a one time thing, though, so enjoy it while it lasts. You'll likely be packing your bags and moving to the minor league next season, or you can decide to be a kind of okay team. The latter seems more likely to me. Now it's time for the last of the 3 favorites of disappointment. After doing really well in season 1, you disappointed in the qualifiers the following season and went to the minor league, where you did well again and then rightfully came back to the main league. Obviously, we expected great things from you, and similarly to the Disco Neons, you delivered at first. You did fantastic at the start, getting 2 silvers in 3 events. But then you somehow manage to collapse just like the Disco Neons. I swear things like this make me believe that life is a simulation only meant to give me the worst possible luck in marble sports in the weirdest ways possible. Unlike the Atomics and Disco Neons, I can see you coming back. I can tell that coming back to the main league for the first time was very overwhelming. You probably need an extra season to qualify, come back to the main league, and get back to your championship form. I'm being a bit too optimistic right now, aren't I? And here we are, our Valvik Marble League Season 3 champions. Feels good to be a champion, doesn't it? Well, let's see how they got here. In Season 1, they were pretty mediocre. They stayed around the mid pack for basically the whole season and were a pretty forgettable team. Then they competed in their first ever qualifiers in Season 2, where they nearly missed out but recovered with a gold in the final qualifier event and got third in their qualifier group. In the season, They were the definition of an underdog. They were very bad for most of the season until event 10, where they really stomped on the gas, getting silver. This alone brought them from 15th to 12th, followed by a 6th place finish and then another silver. At this point, they had already went from 15th to 7th in just 3 events. They had a couple more mid pack finishes to keep them in their spot until they discovered that they just had a little bit more in the tank and got 2 medals to end off an absolutely insane table run, almost on the level of Balls of Zen in Season 1. They managed to just barely steal 4th place in auto qualification from the Golf Birds and were given a free shot at a 3rd season. And while their start could have been slightly better, they called up to a championship contending status in Event 7 and stayed in the fight for the rest of the season, and they held a lead in a 4-way championship fight going into the final event. And with a solid 5th place finish, they pulled it off. They are now the 3rd ever Valvik Marble League champions. Congratulations. However, if we look at a pattern real quick, some interesting results pop up. In Season 1, the Balls of Zen had a terrible season until they ran the table to an extreme extent to go from being complete garbage to 5th in just a single event. Next season, they won. In Season 2, the score periods were awful the whole season until over halfway through the season, they ended up jumping all the way up to 4th. This season, the Sky Scouts had a downright embarrassing first half until, with the help of 4 silvers in a row and some other solid finishes, they ended up getting 3rd. Do you see a pattern here? Could the Sky Scouts be on to break their bronze streak with a championship win? We'll have to wait to see in VKL Season 4. But first, we'll see you soon for the Valvik Grand Prix Tour! Wait, that already happened? So you're saying I took so long to make this video that by the time it was over, the VGPT started and got about halfway through the season? Oh. But still, see you soon. But first, before I go, I want to give a shout out to Biscuit. He's done many of these recaps and was my inspiration. In fact, it was a bit more than that. He was planning to do this but decided to give up on it due to being very busy with way too much stuff, so I took over. He's actually doing a recap of the first season of my comp, the Majora Cup, which should be out by the time this video is released, knowing the insane pace that Biscuit does his recaps at. Either that or it should be out not long after this is released. And while I have probably set myself up with just as much stuff as him, I don't set deadlines for myself, so as long as this comes out before the VKL Season 4, I'm fine with it taking a while. Now, good night for real. Oh, and if you haven't, maybe check out the Majora Cup while you're at it. Expect more videos, scripted or not, from me pretty soon. Yeah, like, summer is supposed to be actually huge for me, so if you're coming from the Marvel community, which you 100% are if you're watching this video, and you want to see more general gaming stuff, scripted videos, ranking videos, as well as random other memes and stuff, you should subscribe. Not to mention, my friends and I have made a YouTube channel where we plan to start making videos where we play games together. In the summer, we even have a Jackbox series planned, so stay tuned for that. Link will be in the description. Okay. I'm terrible at outros, so just like comment, subscribe, like, and whatever. Goodbye.